And so when we tried it for free and we tested it out, I gave talks at the Lupus Foundation and people volunteered. And when people stuck with the program, they got the results. And that's when we knew we really had to bring it to the public. And so I've been really, really excited that over the years, I have been able to help people, thousands of people all over the world with recovery, not just from lupus, but with so many illnesses. It is entirely reproducible. For example, you might have seen this video recently from a lady named Julie, who, and people, when they make videos, it makes me so happy. She had mixed connective tissue disease, and she was one of those people that was a researcher. I saw in that little sales video about the conference, they were talking about, are you going to be a researcher? What are you going to do? Well, she tried that. And so she did every protocol she could find, you know, from like autoimmune protocol and paleo protocol and other different kinds of like psychic protocols and all different kinds of protocols. She tried everything she could and nothing progressed her. And a lot of these people would tell her it takes a year before it works. And she would give it a year. I don't have that kind of patience being from New York, but, you know, and nothing. And so she did my 4-week rapid recovery program. So Rapid Recovery is a program that I developed where you do pure hyper-nourishment, which I'm going to teach about in a little bit, only the foods that are going to be specific for cellular repair and optimal immune function. And you do that with checking in with me every single day, either for 4 weeks individually, like she did, or 6 weeks in a group format. And I oversee your life during that time period. If you ever thought you needed a Jewish mother in your life to say, what did you eat and how did you sleep and how are you feeling? Do you have good boundaries? What's going on? That would be me. And what I do is I oversee every aspect of what you're doing to make sure it works. Because as that little intro video that Nancy made shows, autoimmune disease is affected not only by diet, but by emotional health and stress and anxiety and other factors that can contribute to the problem. So I'm able to oversee all those things and help. Well, Julie needed help with all of those things. And she was so sick that she was barely able to care for her 2 little boys. She was just no energy, constant pain, really high level exhaustion, and had given up on everything she wanted to do. She stopped working and was home and just trying to get through her day. Well, at the end of the 4 weeks, she was finally getting breakthroughs in her energy. She was feeling really good. Aches and pains were gone. And she's like, oh my God, I think I can work again. And she started doing some part-time work. Well, when she checked in to make this video, she told me she had Dr. G energy now, and she had started a coaching business. You know, she helps married couples and businesses, and her kids are chasing after her. And she also, in addition to having symptoms of different autoimmune diseases, which is what mixed connective tissue disease, it means you got a little bit like the Chinese menu, you know, like a sample of from something from A, something from B, something from C. Well, she had some symptoms that could be lupus, Sjogren, Scleroderma, nothing specific enough, but she also had Hashimoto's thyroid issues. Well, after making this video, she recently sent me this, which showed that her thyroid issue had healed itself. And Hashimoto's is a very common thyroid disease that people think is incurable, but it's not the case. It is reversible if you take action and if you have enough inflamed if you have enough inflamed thyroid left to heal, you can get function back, which she did. And the best thing was she sent me this text. My doctor, didn't you used to be hypothyroid? So I give my cell phone number to everybody that I work with so that I can personally stay in touch with them and stay on top of what's going on with them. And one of the best things about that is getting text messages like this. This is someone named Maria, who she went to my free classes, which I have classes that are online at my website, goodbyelupus.com, which I'll show you about that later so you can get more free info. She followed my free info and she eliminated Graves' disease, which is hyperthyroid. Her new results showed a drastic reduction in the antibodies, and her thyroglobulin antibodies are normal range. And thank you so much. So both types of autoimmune diseases that affect the thyroid. This is someone named David, who I always like to share because he was my first client that I saw through telemedicine back when I decided to start making this my primary focus. And his mother pushed me into that. She saw me give a talk about mental health and nutrition, and she said that she'd been praying for me to help her David. Now, David had lupus, Sjogren's, and Scleroderma since he was a young teen. He'd been in the ICU for 4 months at a time. You can see that the skin condition had gotten so severe, and look how swollen his lips are, his nose, his eyes. You can see he had depression. I mean, just look at his eyes. And he was extremely lonely because he said when he went out in the world, nobody would look at him. Nobody would look him in the eye. And it was extremely sad for him because he wanted to work and be a part of the world, but nobody wanted to give him any work or anything because they couldn't look at him. This is him on medication, doing the best medication can do. And this is him after doing my nutrition protocol and reversing his disease. He also had scleroderma that ripped open. So scleroderma hardens the skin so that when you bend your knuckle, it can break open and you can get infections in your joint. I know that's hard to look at, but it's really severe. His doctor told him before he met me, the only thing he could do was amputate his fingers. That's what the plan was, to amputate his fingers. But then after doing my protocol, his fingers healed completely. And he got a job within 2 months of working with me, and he started creating artwork with those same fingers. Here he is going to work, and this is his 3D artwork. He actually won a competition in LA art shows, Los Angeles, with the beautiful art he makes with those fingers he can now use. And that's really what I think of as my purpose, is to help other people live theirs. That's what I see, is that it's not about skin and joints and diseases and blood tests. It's about a person living the life they were born to live, like he's doing now. And that's him at work. They gave him carrots for his birthday because they call him the rabbit. I get a lot of medical professionals who come to me. It turns out doctors, nurses, and pharmaceutical researchers and pharmaceutical salesmen don't actually like to take medications. And they start doing their own internet research when they need to. So as a nurse, Peggy knew very much about what autoimmune diseases were. And you can see, look at her when she came to me. She did my 6-week rapid recovery group. So she had my oversight every day for 6 weeks. And this is what her wrists look like when she started the group. Look at that, how swollen that is and how painful it is. She couldn't bend it at all. And at the end of 6 weeks, that's her in our live meeting at the end of 6 weeks, showing that she has her range of motion back fully in her joint. Isn't that cool? When you take care of your body properly, it wants to repair itself. On a cellular level, we're programmed to repair ourselves, but you have to give your body what it needs, and you have to stop hurting it at the same time. This is Jackie. She was in my 6-week rapid recovery group, got rid of anti-phospholipid antibody as well, which is a blood clot antibody, and reversed her ANA in 6 weeks, which is the lupus antibody. This was a case series I published in reversing lupus nephritis, getting one woman off the transplant list in 6 weeks. She doubled her kidney function and got off the transplant list, even though her nephrologist said nothing could be done and changing your diet is pointless. She did it anyway. And interestingly enough, when she got off the transplant list, he said, I don't know how it happened, but I don't think it was the diet. You know, he suddenly started believing in miracles, I guess. These are people who go to my free classes. This is one that was sent to me from someone who went to my free classes. Medications were not working on her discoid lupus. This is lupus in the skin, but just using my protocol alone, my nutrition protocol, she was able to do that in 3 weeks. This is Mariana, who also did my 6-week rapid recovery group for lupus in her brain that was causing her to have multiple seizures a day. The seizure stopped within a few days, and she was able to lower her dsDNA antibodies from over 3,000 to 80 during the course of the group. So those antibodies just died off, and she got her life back as well. She used to travel with her boyfriend. She had to go home and live with her parents, and it just broke her heart. And she went back out there and lived her life. Molly Ann was someone who did my 6-week rapid recovery group. Now, she'd been sick since she was a teenager. She's born the same year as me, so she's 45. And she went to her eye doctor after the group, and her eye inflammation she'd had for 9.5 years from dermatomyositis was gone. And eyes heal very quickly. We've helped people with all sorts of different inflammatory eye diseases. Gone. I'd last seen her in February. She couldn't believe it. My eyes were normal. Second, my liver enzymes also elevated for 9.5 years, also normal, incredible, last drawn a month ago. And they were trending down, and now they're normal. Now, when she went to see her doctors have been following her, like I said, since she was a teenager. Oh, I got a message from her right afterwards. She went to see her doctor who'd been taking care of her since she was 18. He said the GI doctor emailed her, and she was astounded. Then they checked my son's labs, and his own dsDNA and thyroid antibodies were negative. Her son also had autoimmune disease, which healed with him following along with her in the group. And they invited me to speak at a grand rounds at the hospital, which I said I would do when COVID died down a bit so soon. So this is really exciting, right? Is that doctors who have been treating her for almost 30 years saw a change in 6 weeks that they couldn't see in 30 years. And they were excited about it and invited me to come do a grand round. So that's the best, is when I get to share with doctors. is a teacher who told that she'd never be able to walk on her own again, who after 6 weeks sent me a video of her doing just that. Jackie's a recent graduate of my group who had rheumatoid arthritis and mixed connective tissue disease. She's showing here how she can make a fist. She couldn't make a fist when the group started. And at the end, this is her in the final meeting showing off that she can hold a pen, no more hand pain. First time she could make a fist in 2 years. She had so much strength in her hands, she was moving furniture around. No more mouth sores. She had a blistering disease that made it so she couldn't wear sneakers for 2 years. She was wearing sneakers again. And she just posted this online that I had to share. She went to her doctor and they are taking her off of her medications now. They told her that she is lupus free. How cool is that? Another blessing from me having lupus. Another doctor who saw me who had a mystery autoimmune disease, nobody could figure out what was wrong with her, but she couldn't walk without steroids. And she prescribed herself the steroids because nobody believed she was sick. And she really learned a humble lesson about what patients go through when you go to your doctor and you look too good, but you hurt and they can't figure out what's wrong. So they just tell you you're fine. She was a doctor who could prescribe to herself, thankfully, but nobody could figure out what she had. She was told to go to the Mayo Clinic and NIH. They have a special clinic just for enigmas and nobody could figure it out. She finally read Goodbye Lupus and started my plan. And she was able to lower her steroids for the with me and said, if you can fix me, I will give all the residents I oversee your book. Well, guess what? She got off the steroids completely and is doing really well. And she said she will keep up with that promise. I've also helped a lot of children. Unfortunately, children are getting sicker and sicker, younger and younger. This young lady was 11 years old with lupus in her heart, her lungs, and her kidneys. And she was a code blue that had to be shocked back to life at 11 years old. And we put her on my program and she healed really quickly. These are text messages from her mom. Cardiology appointment, her heart was back to normal. She started doing martial arts 3 times a week. And her kidneys were back to normal within only 2 weeks. And then she kept going. She played piano, viola, and she wants to be a doctor, and she's a straight A student. And she went back to living her life. She's a teenager now, so she doesn't let me show her picture anymore because she's too cool for that. So I put a little face over it. But you could see the difference. Look at the skin tone and the source of smile. It's helped people reverse HPV and cervical dysplasia. This was someone I've never met who just happened to make a YouTube video after going to my free classes and reading my book and got rid of her endometriosis. This is someone who just happened to work out next to me at the gym who had severe food allergies and high blood pressure. And by changing his diet, getting him off the meat and dairy, he was able to go back to eating all the foods he used to need an epinephrine shot to be able to eat. Bernard is a recent graduate of my rapid recovery group who's 77. And he came to me with high blood sugar and glaucoma. And in week 5, he was told he had normal eyes, no more glaucoma. And at the end of the group, I said, what was the best part, Bernard? And he said, I love the fact that my diabetes is under control. My eyes are normal, but the best part is I learned from you how to be happy. He said, I was a grouchy man, and now I'm a happy person that lives in the moment, all because of what you taught me. And that's also one of the best things to me is if I can teach people happiness, then whatever your diagnosis is, you're still lucky to be here. And that's a big part of what I teach in my rapid recovery group. This is someone with peripheral neuropathy who did my rapid recovery group after chemotherapy. So she'd had cancer and chemotherapy, and the chemo had caused peripheral neuropathy in her hands, fingers, and feet. And after 3 weeks, all of her chemo symptoms were gone. And after 6 weeks, the peripheral neuropathy was gone. And we've had other people who have healed completely from the negative effects of chemotherapy with our rapid recovery group. One of them's in the group right now who just had a blood smear that was perfect. And the guy who did the smear said he's never seen somebody have a perfect blood smear after chemo, even after a year. And hers is only 6 weeks out. I want to tell you this last one before I get into the nitty gritty, because I like stories, and this is a really good story. So Rachel came to me 8 weeks pregnant, and she had lupus and Sjogren's, and it was pretty severe, and she was immobilized. She had to start maternity leave really early because she couldn't get off the couch. She was in a lot of pain, and she was terrified about having a kid because after each pregnancy, she'd had one pregnancy that was successful, but she ended up very sick with autoimmune disease afterwards. Then she had a miscarriage and it was even worse. And she was terrified that when she gave birth, she was going to be stuck in the hospital when her baby was coming home. So she read Goodbye Lupus. She booked 4-week rapid recovery with me. We literally had 4 weeks before her C-section. So this was what she was eating every day. And she was able to reverse her disease within the 4 weeks and have a healthy delivery, little munchkin. This was her face before, and that's after. And here's the thing. So this is really exciting, right? And actually, she just had another baby, still lupus and Sjogren's free. She's off all medications for over 4 years now. She just had another baby during the pandemic, stayed disease-free, no medications necessary. So it has stuck and she has continued on. But right after she healed, they got a call that their mother-in-law, her husband's mother, was in the hospital with her final heart attack. That's what they told him. His mother had been sick for a long time. You can see she had morbid obesity. She was 68. She had type 2 diabetes, super high cholesterol, even though she was on cholesterol meds. And she'd had 25 heart attacks since 41 years old. 3 bypass surgeries, 10 stents. She had bought her cardiologist a new house, a new car, and a lot of vacations. Okay. She'd had heart failure for over 2 years now. And so in 2017, the doctor called and said her heart was too sick to heal. This heart attack is her last. Come say goodbye. Her husband had just watched his wife heal from an incurable disease and have their baby. And he said, you know what? I'm just taking the blender, and I teach how you can get the nutrients you need just by blending and drinking them in a green smoothie, right? Brought the blender to the ICU, and he gave her nothing but smoothies in the ICU. And in 5 days, she walked out. 5 days. And here she is. So a year later, she was off all of her cholesterol meds. She had a little bit of remaining insulin dependence, but she had good blood sugars on a small amount of insulin. She hadn't had any more chest pain, lost over 20 pounds, and she looked like that a year later. And she's doing a good job drinking her smoothie, right? From the doctor saying you're dead to walking out 5 days later and continuing to heal and be healthy. Now, the next person to get sick in the family is near the husband, because after dealing with his wife's illness and then dealing with his mother's illness, the guy was under a lot of stress and he was stress eating. He was not eating what his wife was preparing. I know what she's eating. He's a teacher and he was eating poorly at school lunch and everything. And so he gained a bit of weight, about the midsection here, and he was diagnosed with fatty liver and diabetes. And he called me and said, I need help. Now, we had a long conversation. Again, your emotional health is very key to your physical health. And I told him, one, you've got to let go of the stress. Your wife's okay and your mom's okay. And he started crying. I said, it's all right. You can heal. You have to mourn what you went through and you can heal now. You don't have to take care of anybody else anymore but yourself. You follow along with the program. Here he is 3 weeks later, feel like a new person. He was working out 3 times a week. He was listening to me about getting his therapy. Blood sugars came down to the 130s and then 100s. And he lost weight quickly. And he was coming off his diabetes meds already. Plus fatty liver disease that he'd had for years. 1 month later, normal liver enzymes. And 6 weeks later, look at that HbA1c, 4.8, 6 is diabetes. He blew right past normal into abnormally good. And that's how quickly it works. Diabetes recovers so quickly on pure hyper-nourishment. I've never seen anything that works as quickly as that. So that's him after, looking handsome, of course. But here's the most important part of this to me. These are their children. They're beautiful children. That's the new one. These children have the genes for lupus and Sjogren's, and they have the genes for heart failure and diabetes and fatty liver disease and probably a lot more. But the diseases stop here because these children are being fed in a different way where they can actually stop triggering the expression of the diseases that have been haunting this family, and they can live healthy lives. And if I can teach you anything in the time we had together, it is that you can change things for yourself, but also for them, because we are now in a generation of children that are the unhealthiest they've ever been. I am working with kids 2 years old with lupus now. When I was 16, I was told I was young for lupus. And fact, autoimmune diseases have been shown to be spreading all over the world at extremely high rates, entering into countries they never existed in before, mirroring the spread of the Western diet. We have to do something, and if not for you, then for them. So I could do this all day with cases, but I was told I didn't have enough time for that. But the word has gotten out. And it really has been all word of mouth up until recently. I didn't even have a PR person until recently because I couldn't handle all of the requests for speaking anymore and I needed help. But it's all been word of mouth of people who have healed and then told everyone they knew about it. And that's what happens, that they become health missionaries. Like, you need to listen to this. David's mother, Glenda, carries Goodbye Lupus in her purse so that anyone she meets can hear the story and know what's possible. So this is spread like wildfire. I published Goodbye Lupus in 2015. It has been a bestseller ever since. My green smoothie recipes, Goodbye Autoimmune Disease, was bestseller in the first day, which shows me that people need this and want this. Goodbye Lupus is my story of recovery and what to eat to heal. Goodbye Lupus is, what do you mean you read Goodbye Lupus and you didn't do it yet? Here's all the emotional stuff that's getting in your way and how to fix that, as well as dozens and dozens of case studies in reversing many different diseases. I've been featured in the cover of Vegan Health and Fitness multiple times. There's me with my family. That's me with Dr. Garth Davis. That's my husband and I at Fit Over 40, which, by the way, instead of being disabled by 40, getting to be on the cover of Fit Over 40 was pretty darn cool. I was in tears about it. I've been in documentaries like Eating You Alive and the Home and Family Show, and I'm always on TV news all the time. I've been on plant-based news multiple times, which I really appreciate them for spreading the word like they do. This was just from a recent appearance I did. And I've gotten a lot of recognition in other ways that have meant the world to me, especially places like, if you've heard of T. Colin Campbell's Center for Nutrition Studies, I'm a professor on his eCornell course, and I am the only autoimmune expert lecturer for that course. And they told me it was because nobody gets the results I do in disease reversal for autoimmune. And they wanted me to be the one to teach for them. I've also recently been elected to the Forbes Health Advisory Board, which also means a lot to me because I'm the first plant-based doctor to be on the Forbes Health Advisory Board, and it's going to bring me even more into the mainstream. So what all this means to me really is that the word is getting out, and that's what means the most to me. I actually only plan to work with the homeless. That was my original job. I was never looking for the spotlight, but if being in the spotlight means that I can reach other people and they get to live the dream that I do of having a family and life and purpose and being without pain, then I'm happy to do it over and over again, even as I'm doing it right now.